Did PSG manage to sell the best player in the world and somehow get even better? Let's Ewing Theory it up. You will, of course, be familiar with the Ewing Theory, named by Bill Simmons after the great Patrick Ewing of the New York Knicks in the 80s and 90s. It's basically one star player just dominates a team. You can't think of the team. They're synonymous with it. They receive all the press, all the highlight clips. They do all the scoring. In the big moments, it's always them. They're the tactical focus. But somehow, once he leaves, the team gets better and they perhaps even win something. So let's talk about Kylian Mbappé, because the 25-year-old Frenchman is, and I am quoting one Rory Smith in your New York Times here, he is the best player in the world, the hometown icon who's come to symbolise PSG's ambition, prowess, excess and hubris. He's won the World Cup and the last 7 Ligue 1 straight. Last season he put up 33% of PSG's total league goals, scored 44 times all comps. Kylian Mbappé is, excuse me for getting technical here, he's really bloody good at football. This episode of European Nights is sponsored by the great friends at New Balance, a brand that I truly adore. The incredible brand behind the boot, giving players total control of the ball and the game. The Tequila touch perfected. There was a documentary about Luis Enrique's season at PSG. It was put out by Movie Star. It's called quite charmingly, "You Don't Have an Effing Clue," and I'm paraphrasing there. One scene quickly stood out. It's Enrique giving a one-on-one session to motivate his star striker, talking about Mbappe's hero, Michael Jordan.
Yo te he leído que te gustaba Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan cogía de los huevos a todos sus compañeros y se ponía a defender como un hijo de puta. Un líder de verdad es que cuando no nos puedes ayudar con los goles, porque el otro día tenías a 2 jugadores de alto nivel para ti y no puedes ayudarnos, tú nos ayudas en todo lo decisivo.
And if the message wasn't clear, Luis Enrique made his point in public, because after Mbappe scored a hat-trick in a 3-0 win over Rennes, Luis Enrique said he wasn't happy with the performance and asked Mbappe to help the team in, quote, a different way. And once Mbappe left on a free to Real Madrid this summer, though he's still suing PSG just for 60 million in unpaid wages and bonuses, Luis Enrique predicted that if all went well, he'd actually have a better collective this season. PSG do lead the league, 8 wins, 2 draws, yet to lose, though their form has been choppier in the Champions League. Rory, help me get my mind around this. Is this Ewing Theory, or I guess La Theory de Ewing? Is it happening before our eyes? Did PSG sell, in your words, the best player in the world and somehow become better? If so, how?
Not yet, I think, is the answer. As you say, just as was the case with Patrick Ewing, Mbappe was PSG's tactical plan. In that last year, particularly after Neymar and Messi had gone, the focus was always, how can we get the ball to Kylian? How do we make sure Kylian is in space? There was a kind of gravity that he exerted on his teammates, that he almost silently demanded the ball at all times. And there was almost, it never quite got to Ronaldo having a strop at Nani levels of petulance, but there was always a sense that PSG were meant to be working through Mbappe, they were meant to be working to Mbappe. And Luis Enrique, I think, basically didn't like that. That's not how he sees football. It's not the type of player he was. It's certainly not the type of manager he is. He is all about the unit, the collective. I don't think what we've seen as yet from PSG, especially in the Champions League, is a team that is as threatening as any team that contains Kylian Mbappe. But you can see what Luis Enrique is trying to do. He shifted the focus a little bit more onto the midfield, where the really big money signing last summer was João Neves, yet another Portuguese prodigy from Benfica, who was one of the most coveted players in Europe last summer. They've allowed Fabian Ruiz, the Spanish midfielder, to have a little bit more influence. Vitinha, I think, has been excellent for them, sort of scurrying, busy Portuguese player. And then out wide, they have 2 players who are similar in certain ways to Mbappe, not quite of the same level, certainly yet, probably ever, but who are a little bit more willing to sacrifice themselves for the team, to play a role for the collective rather than seeking to dominate kind of the outcome themselves. And that's Bradley Barcola on one flank and Désiré Doué on the other, both signed from other French clubs over the last couple of years as part of that attempt to make the team more French. They still have Ousmane Dembélé. It feels a little bit like he's inherited the Mbappe mantle of the player who makes things happen. I suspect Luis Enrique wants to break them of that as well. His idea will be that there isn't one way that PSG hurt you. There are several, and you have to guess which one it's going to be. That's where he wants to get to, but I think that process takes more than a few months. They still look like a team who are occasionally waiting for the number 7 to score a goal to get them out of trouble. As you say, in the Champions League, they've not been great. They will qualify, obviously, because most teams qualify. A place in the top 8 looks quite unlikely as things stand. But at the same time, they have enough talent that really their development should be pretty quick. So it may well be that by the time the knockout stages roll around, we have a PSG built much more in Luis Enrique's image.
2 years ago, PSG president Nasser Al-Khelaifi declared, quote, "We don't want flashy bling bling anymore. It's the end of the glitter." But in the last 2 seasons, PSG have unloaded Neymar, Lionel Messi and Kylian Mbappé. It really has been the end of glitter. They've brought in 20 new, young, fresh faces, not a crow eye to be seen. In their opening game of the season, 4-1 win over Le Havre. Their average age of just 22 years and 192 days, their youngest ever recorded. Play the babies! They had the most possession of any team in the Champions League. They allowed opponents the least amount of time on the ball before harassing them, an average of just 9 seconds. For so long, the story at PSG was the opposite. It was about baubles, tchotchkes, glitzy collections of superstars, the equivalent of footballing Fabergé eggs. But you can't cram Fabergé eggs into a coherent system, and PSG learned that because no matter whom they hired to coach them, Uncle Carlo Ancelotti, the now deeply respected genius Unai Emery, Thomas Tuchel, the great American Mauricio Pochettino, and now Luis Enrique. But Rory, what am I actually watching now? What is this young press-heavy team wearing those brand Jordan PSG kits?
It's a club and a team trying to establish an identity, having spent quite a long time and an awful lot of money doing something else entirely. That, as you say, I think the Qatari hierarchy at PSG had got sick of results under that kind of Galactico model of Neymar, Mbappe and Messi in particular. They'd realised it wasn't delivering them Champions Leagues. It wasn't even necessarily always delivering them the French league title. And they wanted to go in a different direction. I think they realised that in Paris they do have both a massive pool of talent, but also a selling point. Like, if you can sell to France that PSG are a representative team of France, of Paris, of Ile-de-France, the area that the capital sits in, but also the country in general, then you can market that to the world, and it's glamorous and exciting and young and trendy. But also I think they were embarrassed. I think that Galactico model, they realised, had made PSG a little bit of a laughingstock. So they have kind of done a massive ocean liner-sized about turn, and they're currently kind of cranking into gear to have the sort of manager that most elite teams have, who has a style of play that's defined, an ideology that is unbreakable, a control and a power that makes them the biggest single figure at the club rather than one of the players. And they've handed that out to Luis Enrique, and they are trying to reshape the squad so that it is more French, so that it is younger, and so that it fits a little bit more neatly with what Luis Enrique believes, with what he wants, with how he sees his team playing.
Tune in next edition when we discuss, are Real Madrid better without Mbappe? It's like asking whether Everton are better without Shane McNeil. And please direct all your hate mail to @Rory Smith on Twitter. Once again, thank you to our great friends at New Balance for being sponsors of European Nights on the Men in Blazers YouTube channel.